Hello, sunshine.
Hello?
Do you want to fly?
Yeah.
Get on this ride.
Alright.
It'll take you high.
Alright.
Hey guys, welcome back to another excellent episode of Ultrasync. I'm Matt, I'll be your host today, and with me, we are very lucky, we have the wonderful Neocrassical. How are you doing today?
Yeah, good, thanks. How you doing?
Excellent, I'm doing very well. Happy New Year to everyone, hope it's going well. Unfortunately, we're in a bear market, so yeah. What do you do?
So I'm an NFT artist and a Metaverse experience creator. So I make NFTs in the form of comedy skits and audio-visual pieces. And I also host events and experiences between the Metaverse and the real world.
Okay, so like, how did this start? Like, because it's quite a unique thing you're doing, like NFTs being like, especially comedy, it's not something very exploratory. It's like, that's fairly new. So
At the start of 2021, I started releasing comedy skits as an artist, and I found out about Web3 and NFTs in February. My background was in economics, but before this, I'd never known much about crypto or blockchain or NFTs, and I was reading an article about Ferocious, and my mind was just blown, like reading the article. Like, I got the whole paradigm of blockchain and all the problems it solves, and I just fell down the rabbit hole from there, really.
it's an interesting thing, isn't it? Like, even myself, I've been hearing about like Bitcoin, Ethereum, whatever, and I was like, okay, this is interesting. I see the merit, but then like the more I learned about it and the more I talked to different people, is you'll start to be like, oh wow, this isn't just we're going to change how we do money, we're going to change how we do stuff. Companies aren't like going to be able to convert. Some of them are just going to be not necessary anymore. With like decentralization, it removes so many things, and like that's when I was like, oh, things are changing. It's not just, oh, we're going to pay for stuff with Bitcoin. Like that's the most exciting thing.
100%. So before discovering NFTs, when I'd heard about crypto years ago, because everyone had heard of it for a while, right? I made the mistake, which people often don't know to have to like walk you through. You see crypto as another like asset class, or like another financial instrument in an existing financial system. Whereas actually, crypto, blockchain, this thing is the train tracks of an entirely new system. And so NFTs and the way they interact with the blockchain and the way that crypto has a function to be the currency to exchange these things made me get crypto and everything for the first time.
I think that analogy, like the railroad tracks, is like, look at the States, right? The only way they kept going west was they put the tracks down and then bam, now there's huge industry sprawling up around it. I think the railroad tracks are the perfect analogy, actually. Like, the foundations are being laid, the infrastructure's getting here, like that's layer one, right? Like, before like 95, 97% of the world's even in, like we're moving on to layer two things. It's just amazing. So going back, you create creative and artistic NFTs, like comedy skits. How did you get into even thinking of working in this sort of creative realm?
For a long time, I'd been doing a bit of both in terms of creative stuff and being behind the scenes with working with other creatives. Also, my background is in economics and like the operational side. Anyway, with my creative interests at university, I ran a club night, and after university, I started working with some of the artists I met through that. And because I can do things like organizationally and have that part of my brain which works well, but I also really like music and creative stuff, I thought, okay, I'll fuse the two and I'll be on management side and production side. Did that for a few years, and then I hit a point of stopping enjoying it. And at the same time, I was encouraged by my family to try acting, which is something I hadn't tried, but they've been saying it for years. Anyway, tried it and did it for a year, and it just changed my whole outlook on creation. And for the first time, I saw my way into creativity, because the basis of acting is teaching you how to dissolve your ego, how to trust impulse, how to get into character, how to feed off essentially nothing, because your body and your voice becomes an instrument to express something that isn't you. Anyway, and through that, I also started freestyling into my voice notes app on my phone, which is why on all the neoclassical kind of like imagery, the iPhone is the centerpiece, because I just love the voice note app. It's just like the quickest way in to making something. And yeah, it just unfolded from there, and comedy skits like was just my angle, because I used to send like voice notes to friends and stuff to make them laugh.
But whatever you do, make sure you become famous, because if you're not, you're fucked.
I thought, well, maybe I'll make this something more real.
That's interesting. I do that. I mean, it was funny actually. The other day, me and a few friends, we were going through, and I was like, you know, when you go into like your Photos app, and you're like, wow, I remember this like 6 years ago, whatever. And I was going through, and I was like, guys, I send you a lot of really strange things, don't I? And they're like, no. So maybe I'll join you. I'll join you on the next. We'll do a feature.
There's something in it. Like a famous comedian was saying, like, the funniest people you know, it's not a comedian, it's your mate.
I think, and that I think, because maybe as you were saying, like with the drama and the teaching, like to make you comfortable with yourself, like maybe because when you're mates, you're more comfortable. You perfectly know your audience, right?
Yeah.
So that's really interesting. And so you worked with other artists before. Like, was that something just you were doing as a job, or did you kind of maybe know you wanted to be in the space?
Yeah, I knew I wanted to be in the music industry in general, and creative work in general. I'd worked, before I went to uni, I worked in the city and hated it. And so after that, I asked myself consciously, I was like, what in life do I actually care about and enjoy? And the answer is music. So I kind of reverse engineered. I was like, well, I've got to figure out a way to try and make a living in music. So at university, I ran club nights. After I started working with artists that I thought had potential, managed them up to a point. It was just that, basically.
Now at this point, like you're completely off chain, right? This is like conventional styling. And you've talked a bit, when did like 2 and 2, like especially the economic side of your brain and the creative side, right? When was like the spark point for those two coming together?
It was during 2020 when I was making, like I said, it started in voice note joke songs that I'd send to my friends with different like accents and stuff.
I think I'm nearly in. Me, I want to do that again. That was amazing. What was that?
And they'd be cracking up at it, and I'd be listening back, and they'd say, yeah, I haven't heard anything like this. It's such a funny angle on it. And because of my background in economics, basically the foundation of economics is that with an equation, you can explain the relationship between so many different things and how it creates real world outcomes. So like, for example, pubs. The demand for drinking in pubs is a function of different variables in an equation: the weather, the price of like the base alcohol, the amount of people in the area, blah, blah, blah. You can create an equation that models it, right?
Yeah, sure.
So I don't know like what sparked it, but I started viewing creativity like that. Like a song, for example, is a function of the genres used to make each instrument. So a house song is usually house drums plus house vocals plus house synths. And I started thinking, well, if you did house drums plus trap elements in drums and then trance synths and then comedic vocals,
what do you get?
What do you get?
What do you get?
Something completely new.
Pop a Mercedes Benz. Oi, fucking did it. Do it with your friends. Oi, fucking did that. Do it like you ain't got no end. Do it.
And then that's why I mentioned in the white paper, I think it's possible to derive a equation for originality.
Originality in general. That's interesting. And so one of the most interesting things, for me at least, that Neocrassical has done is a lot of you will know about Bitcoin white papers, Ethereum white paper. Every project has now got a white paper, right? Not something you'd normally think of as an artist to have a white paper, but it's something that you've done, in some ways tongue in cheek, but also at the same time, as you were saying, very serious, which I mean kind of matches up. You're doing skits, but there's serious music talent there, there's serious artistic talent. So I think why have you gone and made a white paper?
So it's inspired by what I love about the thinking behind Bitcoin having a white paper is that it's decentralizing knowledge.
Yeah.
It's making something open source that a person's insight. So the creator of Bitcoin made something and then gave away the keys to how we made it.
Yeah.
And that created this whole new paradigm. So I was inspired by that, and it was, as I've mentioned, in my journey to kind of becoming an artist, there was a long time where I didn't think I could create art. And there was a variety of mainly mental blocks to me kind of seeing myself as an artist or getting to a moment of creation and freestyling and trusting the moment. And in my journey to making art and seeing what ways I broke through those blocks, it was a lower barrier than I realized. And I thought, I want other people who are aspiring to be artists, or just people that want to view on creativity in general, to have my way in as food for thought.
Yeah, you've open sourced your
method.
your method and your origin story, as it were.
Yeah,
that's really interesting. And like in your paper, like the first thing I was drawn to after reading through it was the breakdown and equation forming of creativity in general. But like, what was most important for you on the paper? Was it the whole thing of like, hey, this is what I did, maybe you can apply some of that yourself? Or do you see it as more kind of the launch point for your next project? Kind of like, I've got a white paper, so I've now written down what I've done and what I want to do. Yeah, do you see it as now a launch point, or is it kind of another one of your works, as it were?
It's not a launch point, it's not even another one of my works. It's the first thing you said of like, I wanted to give people tools of my way in.
To do it.
Yeah,
Okay.
because like, for example, right, the majority of artists often have an alter ego, but they don't talk about the fact it's an alter ego. So Snoop Dogg wasn't born Snoop Dogg, right? But him calling himself Snoop Dogg breaks down a lot of whatever barriers he could have as his government name, because when he's Snoop Dogg, he's not that person.
That level of detachment, is almost security, right? It's like, hey, it wasn't me.
Exactly, but artists, I haven't seen in interviews artists telling people, yeah, I came at this, I created the alter ego, blah, blah, blah. It's, oh yeah, I'm Snoop Dogg. So, like, step back, you won at some point.
That makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense.
But that's like the first point is about alter egos. I then go into two other aspects of the first 3 points. The second one is accents. So it's a kind of like an evolution of the alter ego point, right? If I start speaking like that and I'm not myself suddenly, it's like dissolving my own self and then I'm in another mindset.
Persona, like, okay. Now that's interesting. Do you see like, I see similarities there immediately with the metaverse, right? Because my best bet is eventually everyone's gonna have like, instead of a Facebook account and Instagram profile, we're gonna have like this metaverse avatar, as it were, that is us. Do you maybe see that is similar to what you're saying, and like that will create more creatives or personas out there that people have, or provides an opportunity to have more easily multiple of them?
100%. And that's partly why the space inspired me so much when I got into it, because I'd arrived at these kind of breakthroughs, what I call the Neocrassical theorems. Some of them are original, some of them are kind of taking bits of what exists. But when I came in and went on Twitter and saw that everyone had NFT profile pictures and no one was posting photos of themselves, and the whole space was already like an avatar dominant space, it just changed the way I thought about what's going to happen with people, because to me it marks an evolution from, at its most basic level, let's say Instagram is a world where if you're good looking, you win, right? And that's based on nothing. It's just shallow, right? On Twitter, when you have an avatar and no one knows what you look like, people are more interested in what you're saying and your output as a person, which is more meaningful and more, it's just more real than...
Yeah, there's some actual value rather than your...
something more surface level.
Yeah, very surface level. But so, one thing I find interesting is like a lot of these big profile pictures are like your yacht club, your Bored Apes, crypto kitties, the list goes on, right? Do you maybe think that there'd be more value in people creating their own like artistic avatar, maybe in the same stylings or the sense of it? Because that's then their persona, just as you said, like putting on an accent, right? Whatever accent you put on is your accent. Do you see more value in that? Like for me, I've always been like, I like the NFT piece of art, I think they're cool, but I'd rather make my own, like, than pick one, even from these generated 10,000s, right? You might find one you like the most, but for me, I feel like a personal disconnect, and maybe similar to what you were saying with this persona you can build that lets you do more, maybe that's somewhere they should go. Maybe like a way for everyone to build their own using elements from artists, perhaps.
Yeah, I agree, mate. I think when you first started saying that, I thought, well, maybe it's hard for the average person to suddenly be an artist and creative and use these tools to make something yourself. And then as you went on, I thought, well, actually, my avatar, the Neocrassical avatar, is based on the Apple Animoji.
Yeah.
And it gives you a base set of choose your head, choose your sunglasses, choose your hair, right? That would be awesome if the way avatars were made for most people in Web3 is that they come to a site and you've got a selection of options and you customize it.
Yeah, and they could be from different artists and so, all right, stop recording. We've just come up with a brilliant business idea. Let's leave. But yeah, it's funny because there's so many like similarities, like going way back. Like we've been doing this since like The Sims.
Yeah.
Like, we've been creating avatars. We've been doing all this stuff, but it's been superficial. Again, like you create a family in The Sims, right? Like you have a Tamagotchi. Like there's probably billions of Tamagotchis around the world just lost. And they're gone. We've been doing these things, but now we're putting them to use. And like, especially with your work, really creatively. And one of the things I really enjoyed about looking through your work and like hearing about your work is you also do in-person events as well. So like real world, but almost portals to another dimension. So you had one recently, didn't you?
Yeah, so I threw the UK's first simultaneous Metaverse and real world party. It was also my debut NFT exhibition. Basically, I've got a plot in Crypto Voxels where I have my Neocrassical world gallery and I present my NFTs on oversized, like what look like iPhones. And yeah, one day I was sitting on my computer looking at it and I just had a spark of like, imagine if I built these oversized iPhones in the real world, mapped this whole metaverse plot into a real world location, and then streamed it in both directions. So in the metaverse, you've got a stream looking in on the real world location in London, and then in London, you're looking at a projection of the metaverse plot.
That's interesting because like, yeah, a lot of metaverse things now are like, oh, you come here, you look into the metaverse and it's something completely different. That kind of two-way channel is really interesting. It's like, you stare into the void looks back at you.
Yeah. Right? It was a lot of that. There was a lot of like confused / awestruck faces. I think it was the most obvious takeaway from me is that in the London space, everyone was just a bit like, just looking up as if like trying to process it.
Yeah.
And I think that was kind of, in a way, one of the biggest achievements was opening people's eyes to like, oh, but the metaverse is just a representation of us virtually based on the blockchain. And
yeah, no, that's interesting. So like, do you think a lot of people that came to the event, it was like their first experience with metaverse or?
Some, yeah. It was a mixture of people that are already in the space. Dr. V came, he's deep in the space, and then a mixture of other people that they wanted to find out more, they were kind of interested. So it was a mix of both. But what I thought was awesome about it, which I've experienced at the other NFT events I've been to in London is that I've never been in an environment where you have artists, finance people, tech people, all in the same room as equals, speaking to each other on a level.
Yeah,
you usually just get creatives or finance.
It's just that for me is the democratizing of like just things that shouldn't have been that way. Like, why not? We're all stuck in these bubbles, but there's a lot of stuff. Like every event I've been to, I've been talking to people like masters in maths, and I'm like, oh, I like maths, but schools teach you maths terribly. And then you're talking to artists. Like I'm seeing a piece of art that I'm like, I like this. I don't know why. And then you get to talk to people about it. It's so interesting, and I think that's something that society as a whole has been missing.
Yeah, it's like a confluence of needs. Kind of what is the foundation of a new economy, right? A new system. And in the old system, you'd go to a music night and it'd be all music people because that system is so developed that everything is segmented a lot.
Yeah.
Whereas now it's like an early economy, like kind of, it's not like it, but kind of like a barter economy where in the same room you've got someone that needs to change apples for oranges and then someone with a cart that needs to work with them to deliver them and blah, blah, blah. And it's cool because this Web3 Metaverse NFT space is the kind of key people in these different segments, but all in the same room right now.
Yeah, no, it is. We're lucky to be in like still the formation times. Like so many people are like, oh, like things have capped off now. I mean, even OpenSea, it's done more this year than it's done in previous years already. And we're still in the first month of the year. Like it's growing, and like I think sometimes I forget that, like because there are echo chambers, right, in everything. And I was talking to someone recently who was like, oh, everyone's buying NFTs and stuff. But we also have to remember that like barely anyone, when you go down a high street, you go into your local supermarket, whatever, ask everyone in there if they've got an NFT.
No.
Chances are they haven't. And like that's one of the like things I've been trying to work on myself, and I've noticed more since being in the space, is echo chambers are more prevalent, in my opinion, than they have been, and starting to recognize that's important. Like we're still in this, we're laying the foundation, we're laying the railroad still.
Because people, once they've been in it for a second, their perception gets warped. They've experienced like a boom in NFTs for 2 months, and then it takes a slight dip, and like you said, they're like, oh, everyone's got them now, but it's like, you're still so early. And that's why I think like any artists that want to make NFTs and want to get into the space, you're still early, and like it's important that individuals and artists and people that want to shape how the future unfolds get in now, commit, and know that it will become the foundation of major industries. And now's your chance to form it, and you're not late. There is a space for you, and you can shape it, because if individuals and artists sit back and go, oh, I'm too late, the future of Web3 is going to be shaped by Web2 people, and it's like, well, we could have had that.
The analogy I use, right, is when Bitcoin was $300, everyone was like, we're too late. We missed the boat. I mean, who knows? Let's get it to 100K in the next couple hours, please. But yeah, so what would you say to like artists, musicians, just creatives in general? What would, in addition to your white paper, what would you go and do today if you wanted to put something out there?
Before putting something out there, I would say fall down the rabbit hole and accept that it's going to take you at least 10, let's say minimum 10, but if not 20, 30, 40 hours of consuming YouTube videos, reading articles to figure out how blockchain works, how NFT works, and how crypto works. It's an entirely new system, and it's going to take you that first learning curve to figure it out. Because you come in and you're like, oh, what's a wallet? What's a blockchain? So accept that learning curve, right? And just strap in. It's going to take you, let's say, 40 hours, right? Once you get on the other side of that, your mind should be completely exposed to what this means and how this changes the paradigms of so many things.
That Web3 wake up.
Yeah.
And I mean, so one of the things we do, we now have a Discord running, like come down, Neocrassical's in there, you can talk to him yourself. We'll have links for everything in the bio. Like that's the other thing I'm loving to see is all these projects like always have a community-centric focus, the good ones. And that's so nice that it's like, oh, there's the head or the starter or the artist, right? They're not in their ivory tower. They're like they're in channels, they're in telegrams, they're in discords, and you can just go talk to them. I think that's one of the things. That's when I really started getting into it. Do your research, but then also there's so many events going on everywhere. Like, and if they're not in your hometown, right? They're in the metaverse. Like, there's no reason not to go to them. Like, worst case, you don't enjoy the event or you don't meet anyone that changes your mind or experience, right? But opening yourself up to those opportunities and like, as we've said, we're in an opportunity phase now for everyone. So I'd implore people to just, as you said, do the research, but get involved in these communities. Like literally join up, just say hi, and just look through what other people do.
Yeah, I've got to shout out NFT UK. It's a Discord and community where it's like people just get together, they run events, started by Sila Tuna and Mila Loli, and they just bring people together and form events. And yeah, that Art Sect obviously.
Yeah, the wonderful Art Sect. Thank you again for having us, Art Sect.
Art Sect, yeah, the Art Sect, first Art Sect event I went to was, mate, it was paradise. Like, it was in here, and it was the WOM Collective launch night. There was Psytrance playing. I'm a massive, like, hard dance, like, trance head. Everyone was just dressed cool and, like, in this effortlessly cool way I've never seen in London. And it's cool because I feel lucky to have found Art Sect, and what I'd say to everyone getting into the NFT space is get stuck in with whatever and you'll find your tribes. Because at the moment it's a bit of a mishmash, right?
Yeah.
But for me, finding Art Sect was like, oh, these people like dance music, they like trippy art, like they dress cool, but they're not stuck up. And the whole thing together was just like, wow.
I think that's one of the interesting things as well, because like as an adult, how do you really make friends? Like, oh, you might go to football after work or whatever, but in these spaces you meet such a breadth of people. It's like a cheat code for meeting amazing people. Literally is the trick, is just get involved in metaverse events and you'll be talking to like math masters, artists, DJs. It is really strange. It feels like you're in a secret society that is so open. Like it's the least secret society ever. That's really great. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I could talk for hours, and I'm sure we definitely will. It's been great having you guys with us as well, because we're posting on YouTube, where you've probably seen us. Hello, YouTube. We've got our Instagram, we've got TikTok content coming out, but I really would love if you guys get on to our Discord, ArtSec's Discord, like start talking to people about stuff. And sync yourself up, guys.
Thanks to Dr. V for bringing me on. Thanks to Mickey for bringing me through to the ArtSect event, and cheers to all my collectors and everyone following me and doing what I'm doing, and appreciate your time, mate.
Man.
Cheers for having me. Thank you.